HYPERCAR MOUNTAIN.
Hi, this is Larry Hatch with another episode of HYPERCAR MOUNTAIN. Today is a very special episode because I've been wanting to do it ever since I started the series, and really ever since I started collecting 164 diecast Porsches, literally back in the 60s. I have so many of them, actually about 127. I can't go over all of them, so I'm going to go over my favorites, the ones that are the best made. You'll probably have your favorites, they might be different, but we'll see. I want to start by talking about the 911. The 911 has been many different things since the 70s to the current time. And this chart I have here are the last couple years versions, and they vary widely in price, widely in performance, not as widely in appearance, but usually the bigger the spoiler tail on the back, the more expensive it is. The basic 2020 Carrera S, kind of the starter car, if you will, is $100,000, making 379 horsepower and 4.0 seconds 0 to 60. A lot of the new Corvette C8s are coming in at $85,000 to $98,000, and they have 500 horsepower and a 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds. So the basic Carrera is going to be under some fire at that price point, but again, it's a Porsche. Hey, it's not a Chevy. The GTS is kind of the next step up. That goes to $125K with 450 horsepower and a more respectable 3.5 seconds. Now, if you get into the big leagues, the Turbo S is now $205K. I remember when they were, well, you get them for $90 actually back in the day, and they have a whopping 649 horsepower. Compare that to the basic one, and it does 2.6 seconds. So the base C8 Corvette is not going to beat a Porsche Turbo anymore. They had sometimes in the past, but not. The Corvettes have beaten the Turbos before, but not this current one. This current one is ramped up, and it's very similar in performance to the GT2 RS, except with a more domestic, civilized, gentleman Porsche body. If you get even a little higher, not too much higher, well, actually about 200, 210K, is the GT3 RS, which is a more kind of race-looking car. 3.2 seconds. The Turbo S is now, and has been in the past, better than the GT3 and the GT3 RS. The GT3 RS is not a gentleman's Porsche. It's got often garish colors, pinks, oranges, lime greens, and it's got these big GT3 logos all over them sometimes. They're really kind of garish for a German manufacturer, frankly. I remember the first time I saw a GT3, not the RS, this was maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and it was racing down the highway that I take to work, and I was like, what the heck is that? A Porsche with a huge spoiler? Well, there's a Porsche dealer down the street from where I work, so we see a lot of rich people testing out their potential new cars, and this thing was fast as hell. So the light turned red, and the potential buyer just floored the sucker. It went bat out of hell. But the cool thing is it had a clip-on dealer plate on the back, and that went flying up into the air into the shrubbery. Well, I was so far behind it, I stopped, got the dealer plate, took it back to the dealer. I probably should have asked him for a test ride in one. They were very grateful, but I was too shy to ask for any favors in return. But I thought that was cool, because that GT3 that license plate, I could still see it shooting through the air into the shrubbery. That was so cool. Now, the fastest and best Porsche ever that's road legal, I gotta say, is the GT2 RS. those go from 310 to 350. You know, if you're buying it in Beverly Hills, don't expect it for 310. The results are kind of not in. I got some of this data. Porsche doesn't list it, so I had to get this data from reviewers. It's about 375 to 700 horsepower and a 0 to 60 in 2.6 seconds. Kind of close to the Turbo S. It's probably even a little faster. I would say it's probably 2.5, but reports do vary with it. It does handle way better on a track than a stock Turbo S, and it's really designed for kicking butt around corners. It is the pinnacle of the Porsche 911, at least to this point in 2020. And we'll talk a little bit more about some of those things later. The first car I want to talk about that really impresses me is the HYPERCAR Carrera S, here in orange, with orange wheels. The orange wheels look absolutely smashing, and it's got a big deck lid, similar to the GT3. As far as I know, the Carrera S doesn't come with such a big spoiler, but anyway, that's what they did. The doors open on this car. It's got beautiful plastic headlights, lots of detail on the front and rear, although the license plate is kind of a disappointment, I would say. HYPERCAR has made many 911s over the years besides this Carrera S. They have a white turbo that's getting rare. It's about $45 if you can find one. They have some older basic 911s in police trim, white with green or silver with green. It also came in a black version. They do have a GT2 in silver. They have a Turbo S in kind of a blue metallic and also a blue matte version of it. There's a nice 911 Cabrio that comes in red and also in turquoise. There's a nice 911 Targa, a little different, that's silver with a black roof, Targa roof. That's a nice car. And there's a nice Turbo Cabrio that comes in silver and red. I do have that, but it's in storage. Probably 2 hours worth of digging in my storage building to get you that. Sorry. The next car I want to talk about is the GT2 RS, and this particular is a majorette, and it comes in orange like we see here, in green and blue. There's a silver version. I'm not sure if it's the RS, but there's also a silver version. The decals of the GT2 RS on the side are typical of the car. Not exactly, but I've seen a lot of them where they have huge GT2 RSs on them. One on the tail, actually, that I saw. Crazy looking machine. This is a beautiful car. And again, the doors open on it. It's got blacked out wheels. They're a little simple and crude. Not much chassis detail. The springing of the wheels is a bit simple, especially for a majorette. It's not really solid like the HYPERCAR car is. Our third car represents, again, the pinnacle of the Porsche 911 throughout history, and that's the GT2 RS. And this particular one is in silver and black. And what we have to find out and know about the GT2 RS, this is from Mini GT with beautiful gold wheels. It's a solid, very solid model, although the spoiler does flex a bit more than maybe it should. You can see it's got these vents over the front tires, which the real car has, and it's got a small GT2 RS logo on the door. A lot of nice detail on that. You're going to see basically three versions of the GT2 RS. You're going to see it with a hood matching the body color, or a black carbon fiber hood that covers the whole hood, And then you're going to see this version, which has the body color and a stripe down the center and 2 black carbon fiber panels. So if you see 2, if the hood is split into 3, body color and 2 carbon fibers, that is the more expensive Weissach package, which is the best trim, and they tell me the most resellable version of it. Also kind of weird about this particular Mini GT is that it's got, these mirrors are in this kind of soft little rubber, and I suspect they're going to easily fall off if you don't protect this car carefully. It comes in silver with the Weissach package. It also comes in the non-Weissach package in yellow and can't even read my handwriting, white also. So that's kind of a neat thing. The fourth car I want to talk about is this beautiful brown Johnny Lightning. It's got a 2003 date on it. This was one of the first modern diecast cars I bought of the 911 type, and I was just really blown away by this car. It's got the metal flake. You probably can't see it here, but the brown is this beautiful chocolate metal flake. It's got what would be add-on third-party manufacturers' white wheels, and you did see those in some of the Porsches. This car's got amazing detail. If you look at the back taillights, it's got orange, red, black, silver, everything on it. It's just immaculately beautiful. It is the older 930 type of turbo with a so-called whale tail, and you can actually lift up that rear trunk and play with the whale tail. It's kind of neat. The headlamps are white, and the front taillights are orange with a black bumper. It's got a lot of detail on it. It's really a beautiful car, and I really kind of, somebody wants one of these things. They really should get one. It's just a great model, and I think it's worth getting. Anyway, let's see. It came in brown with these white wheels, black with silver wheels, brown with silver and black wheels, and that's called the Classic Gold Series, which issues currently for about $25. So a couple of versions of it to explore out there. Our next car is kind of an enigma, and it's a premium, super premium Hot Wheels. I can't remember the series, but it comes, as you can see here, on a black base, and it had a clear plastic cover over it, and it doesn't look like a Hot Wheels. It's so extremely detailed, front to back. The rear spoiler with a whale tail lifts up, and it's just a smashing piece. I bought it, I think, 12 to 15 years ago. It could be even longer, and was one of those Hot Wheels they were selling back then, that came as a special edition with a plastic cap on it. I mean, thick collector's type cap, and it says Mattel on the bottom and Hot Wheels next to the car. It doesn't look anything like a Hot Wheels, and it's probably the most beautiful Hot Wheels Porsche I've ever seen. I have no idea what it's worth. There's more than 2,500 Porsche 911 Hot Wheels on eBay. I couldn't find one like it, so hey, it's probably worth a couple of bucks. Who the heck knows, right? The next car is a Welt Porsche from a company called Model Collect. It's kind of a Chinese thing, and it's got kind of a simulated carbon fiber texture to the base. It's numbered 1937 out of 2000, and some of you, probably most of you, if you're Porsche fans, know that Welt is a Japanese tuner, and they make very exotic, wide-bodied Porsches. This happens to be based on the 930 ducktail version, and most of Nakai's cars have individual names, kind of clever names. He individually meets with the buyer, no matter where they are in the world, and they design the car, color, wheels, all that sort of stuff. He does the tuning of it, and these cars start at $28,000 in addition to the car that you start with. I was always like these raw Welt models, but they were pretty expensive. A lot of them are in the $70 to $300 range, so I always kind of stayed away. And then recently, this Model Collect had a series of them, such as this black one. It has RWB in white on the door sill. They were only like $38 to $45. They come in a couple different nice colors. And I was like, I can do that. I think it was $37. Beautiful car, lots of detail front and back. The front headlamps literally pop out. They're just like attached to the car. It's got, the tail lamps somehow shine. They glow like real plastic tail lamps. And the steering wheel is a kind of a tan color, so it stands out from the rest of the body. And like most of these, it has the raw Welt headliner on the windshield. You can buy sets of decals of raw Welt, which I guess they have authorized, I don't know, to put on ordinary cars, so that can be done as well. But this is just a wonderful car. It looks like it really does look like an old wide-bodied turbo, and it is, like I say, a 930 ducktail, so it's based on one of the older turbo bodies. The next car I've got is a yellow Barajo, and that's a beautiful car. It comes with silver wheels, and it's actually the GT2 model. It's not the GT2 RS, so there's no carbon fiber on the hood. It's a really nicely made model by Barajo, and its close cousin is this next one that's black. Very similar markings, also a GT2, black with black wheels, and that's got the Maisto label on it. And if you look at the two cars side by side, they're actually the same exact body, same exact chassis. And why is that? Well, that's because Maisto owns Barajo now, and so they're making similar cars. I'm not an expert in those two brands, although I do have dozens of their cars. So I'm expecting that some of you will do more side-to-side comparisons of those. I did have to notice that the Maisto, the backs of the side mirrors are silver, painted silver, whereas in the Barajo they are not. And but other than that, they seem to have a fairly similar appearance with a Porsche logo on the front end. Our last two cars kind of just round things out. There are many Matchbox Porsches out there. I just happened to pick one that I like, which is this dark navy blue. It's got black wheels with a silver rim to them, and the side has a yellow and light blue trim to it. You can tell it's mass manufactured because some of the lines are a little blurry and kind of off, but it's not really that bad. And I gotta say, it does have real cool rubber wheels. It is a 911 turbo based on the 1980s model, and if you look really close, it's got some black spokes on it. And the last one I've got here is a Hot Wheels. I'm not going to go into all the Hot Wheels. This is based on a 71 Porsche 911. in a slightly race trim. The details of all these racing tempos and markings are so nearly perfect. This Urban Outlaw car is really looks good in the collection. The chassis is a blue solid metal. It's not plastic chassis, so this is a fairly heavy car. The last thing I want to go over today, and I know I'm kind of running really long here on this, is what was or is the Porsche 911 Turbo. It's gone through many iterations to be competitive. It's changed a lot, and I'll let you look at these here. The original 930 75 to 77 had only 260 horsepower. My God, that's the original whale tail. A lot of people modified those. The next couple of years was also called the 930, and up to 1989 it had 300 horsepower, and it had the smaller T-tray, which was kind of less criticized and less eccentric. And in the American market, at least, they took the Carrera name off the car. I guess you got Porsche 911 Turbo, 930, Carrera, confused people. The 1990s, early 90s version really ramped up to 355 horsepower. By the end of the decade, that 964 became the 993 with 402 horsepower. In the 2000s, it was named the 996, and there were different versions from 414 to 445 horsepower. But if you really wanted to rule the road and beat a Ferrari or two, you could get the Turbo S for 450 horsepower. The 2015 to 2012 was called the 997, had 473 horsepower, and then the S version 516. Later in 2012 to 2019, it was renamed the 991. Again, why don't they just call it the 911 Turbo and be done with it? But these are kind of internal codes for them, because the bodies were very different. The whale tail looks nothing like the modern Turbo. And anyway, the more recent version has 513 horsepower, and then the S552. That wasn't going to cut it. There's a lot of cars that have more than 500 horsepower now. So now the 2020 Turbo S has 640 to 644 horsepower, and it has a variable tail that's electronically controlled based on speeding and braking. And again, it's 640. Look for that number to increase, because the 911 Turbo ain't going nowhere, and I'm happy about that.
HYPERCAR Mountain.